The Arcane Art of Cultivation, The Path to Immortality. Let's continue from the last video. As an apprentice of the mortal, I will review the turning points of cultivation from the perspective of one who was walked the path. Through the story of a historically documented immortal, I will explain the principles behind these pivotal moments. Today, we will discuss an immortal named Zhang Daoling, also known to many as Celestial Master Zhang, the founder of Daoism. According to legend, over 2,000 years ago, Zhang traveled to southwestern China to banish demons and ward off evil, where he subdued 6 demon kings and 8 ghost kings who were causing chaos among the people, saving countless lives. In the end, he and several of his disciples achieved great merit and ascended in broad daylight. Let's begin by exploring when he first touched the divine beings and received the true turning point in his cultivation journey. In an ancient book titled Biographies of Immortals, which records the lives of immortals, his story begins as follows. Zhang Daoling was a descendant of a national hero, but his father was deeply passionate about seeking the path of cultivation, which left a lasting influence on him. Zhang was intelligent from an early age, studying a vast array of knowledge throughout his life, mastering texts such as the Tao Te Ching, astronomy, geography, and divination. Later, the emperor of the Han Dynasty summoned him to serve as an official. However, the era he lived in was plagued by chaos, with incompetent rulers and a suffering populace. Zhang believed that mere administrative efforts could not truly govern society, nor could they address his concerns regarding life and death. So, at 50, he resigned from his position and withdrew to pursue the art of longevity. Afterward, he traveled through mountains and rivers in search of answers to cultivation. Eventually, in Mount Fanyang, he obtained a Daoist alchemical text, which gradually restored his youthful vitality. At this point, many of you might wonder, how did he suddenly acquire a book that could restore youth with cultivation? Who gave it to him? And why only to him? Where was the turning point? Only those who are truly on the cultivation path understand the hidden secrets here. The beginning of the story has already introduced Zhang Daoling's sincerity, kindness, and enlightenment toward cultivation. As the descendant of a national hero, he was extraordinarily talented, held high office, and enjoyed social prominence, yet he never craved fame and fortune. He saw the incompetence of the ruling class and resisted corruption. On the contrary, he was compassionate, deeply concerned with the people's well-being. Even though he knew that teaching alone couldn't save society, he responsibly taught until 50 before withdrawing. He let go of fame and fortune and chose to dedicate his remaining life to seeking the art of longevity. Now, let me ask, if you held a position of high status, how likely would you be genuinely let go of fame and fortune and still desire cultivation? Because of his deep sense of responsibility, his concern for the people, and his unwavering pursuit of immortality, the divine beings noticed, recognized him, and granted him the true method of cultivating for longevity. It was his willingness to let go of a worldly status that allowed the divine beings to entrust him with the precious resources for cultivation. Let's continue with the story. How did Zhang Daoling cultivate? Where did he find the energy for cultivation? How did he connect with the spiritual realms and gain knowledge from the divine? The story goes on to say that after resigning, Zhang Daoling wandered through mountains, seeking the answer to cultivation. Eventually, he received the alchemical text on the mountain and began practicing in Mount Fanyang, gradually rejuvenating. At 60, he heard that the people of southwestern China were pure-hearted, and that there was an opportunity for edification. Additionally, the southwest had many stone mountains, so he brought his disciples and moved southwest, retreating to Crane Call Mountain. Later, he found a hidden scripture in the stone chamber of myriad mountains, and acquired the technique to command the mountain's gods, which proved practical and effective. At this point, if you are just an ordinary practitioner, you may not understand this passage of the story, even though it's written quite clearly. Few know the meaning behind these names. Let me explain. First, Zhang Daoling understood that cultivation couldn't be achieved by merely reading scriptures at home. As a young man, he had read every book on mysticism. He didn't indulge in any single book, but chose to search for answers in nature and the mountains personally. Because of his rational, evidence-based approach to cultivation, the divine granted him the alchemical text to aid his practice. Where did he practice with alchemical text? The stories repeatedly mentions the mountains, the energy required for cultivation, which also activates the aura. It's drawn from the natural world. This is also why he chose the mountains southwest. Secondly, once he discovered the method, he passed it on to others seeking immortality, his disciples. When he heard of the pure-hearted people in the southwest, he traveled there to teach them the way of living. This shows his constant concerns for others. Zhang Daoling was not only wise and gifted with supernatural powers, but he was also willing to help the people. Thirdly, it was because of his desire to help others and his actions that Zhang Daoling discovered the hidden scripture and the technique to command the mountain gods. This enlightenment further moved the divine, who granted him additional knowledge. So, what is the technique to command the mountain gods? This is actually a method to communicate with the local mountain deities. Zhang Daoling could converse the mountain gods to learn more wisdom from them. He could also borrow their power to guide his disciples and aid the people. Lastly, a crucial and easily overlooked phrase in this part of the story is practical and effective. This emphasizes that the knowledge he received was verifiable and applicable. Today, many practitioners are lost in grand theories, trying to cultivate through words and imagination without verifying the energy source or the authenticity of the spirits they summon, often result in illness. Without a means of a direct verification, the teachings you follow can only be sustained by imagination, merely a brainwashing scheme. Let's continue to the climax of the story. What does the way of heaven expect from us? And what actions qualify as merit? The story reaches its most fascinating part. Zhang Daoling then encounters the Supreme Lord Lao, who teaches him the method of refining the divine elixir for ascension. 3 years later, the elixir is completed. However, Zhang Daoling does not consume it immediately. He says, "If I take the elixir, I will ascend and become immortal. Yet, I have not yet achieved true merit in this world. I must first rid the world of evil and help the people live in peace. Only then will I ascend without regret or shame." Subsequently, the Supreme Lord Lao teaches him a new cultivation method. Zhang Daoling practiced for 1,000 days, attaining immense divine power. He could see through all things, travel freely through different spiritual realms, summon other deities, and with a mere gesture, deter malevolent spirits. He went on to defeat the 6 great demon kings, reclaiming 24 territories for human habitation. These areas had previously been infested with the tens of thousands of demons spreading plagues, causing immense suffering. After vanquishing the 6 demon kings, Zhang Daoling sealed the ghostly horde in the northwest desert. With this, Celestial Master Zhang achieved true merit and finally ascended. The story ends here. Let me help you reflect on the ultimate lesson Zhang Daoling's story teaches practitioners. Before Zhang Daoling obtained the method for cultivating the divine elixir, He had already helped many people and earned the recognition of the heavenly deities. Because of this, the Supreme Lord Lao personally descended to teach him the method of cultivation the elixir, affirming his worthiness for ascension. Here, Zhang Daolin faced a new test. What exactly is merit? The heavenly deities didn't directly tell him what qualifies as merit. He had to discern it himself. He wondered, does helping others within my power count as merit? The divine has provided me with so many resources for cultivation. Is this limited contribution enough? Eventually, he understood. Only by establishing an order that aligns with the growth of all beings does he align with the way of heaven and the intentions of the heavenly deities. Upon grasping what he was meant to do, he passed the hidden test. Subsequently, the Supreme Lord Lao descended again to teach him new cultivation methods, granting him even greater divine power to restore order. You might ask, what does vanquishing demons have to do with the social order? Ancient texts won't, and shouldn't, be overly explicit about this. That's a consensus among the deities. If you seek the answer, it's hidden in past videos. This concludes the story of an Eastern immortal. I believe I've explained it quite thoroughly. In this story, the practitioner embodies rationality and empirical spirit. The path of cultivation is challenging, requiring turning points, merit, and constant confrontation with the unknown. Cultivation is never simply, I think, therefore I am. Returning to reality, we see a different, chaotic scene. Various branches of cultivation, each believing itself authentic. A commonality exists among these teachings. The oversimplified cultivation, whether it's meditation, yoga, healing, prayer, visualization, or using unverified conjuration magic, or mistaking ordinary kindness for merit, all tend to be overly simplistic. The most complex ideas are likely to be endless theories and extraterrestrial tales. Those who hold the real knowledge behind these esoteric theories eliminate the truly challenging parts of cultivation, ignoring genuine energy, empirical spirit, turning points, and merit, turning cultivation into an easily accessible and arbitrary practice. It is undoubtedly one fraudulent scheme after another, crafted by demons. If you are interested in cultivation, be sure to follow my channel, Apprentice of the Mortals. I come from Tibet, and I'm an apprentice of the mortals. This time, I have descended from Kunlun Mountain to bring the true path of cultivation to the world. If you are interested in learning about cultivation for immortality, contact me.